Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and I have the two beautiful founders from FLFE with me in our second interview, which I'm so excited because where we sit in September of 2025, where we're recording this, the world feels like it's at a pivotal point. And I really believe that I've been utilizing this service for about 2 years, but I believe that this is a game changer for anyone who's willing to open their heart and open their mind to all the beautiful technology that's available to us to use to bring humanity forward. So, Jeffrey and Clayten from FLFE, thank you so much for joining me today.
Great to be here, Jane. Thank you.
Yeah, good to see you again, Jane.
Yeah, I have to tell you guys, before we started, we had your assistant on, and we were talking, and we gave a little moment of prayer and meditation before we started, and I wish that every person that's watching this could get on something like this with you and just feel the energy. Like I just feel alive right now. I just feel, I just feel all this beautiful love and unconditional beauty for what humanity is going through right now. And you guys are so important for where we are. So I'm going to jump right into some questions because I have a list of 15 questions. We might not get to them all. And I think I'm going to kind of jump around because I did put them in kind of categories, but I want to jump around and you guys have some new stuff to share as well. So what I'll do is I'll pose a question, and if you prefer, I can ask one or the other, or you can just jump in and answer. Do you have a preference?
It's best if you ask one of us.
Okay.
And then, what happens is that if you have two people, one of us doesn't have to remember everything, so the other person can fill in the gaps.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we were talking about right before we started recording was some upgrades, and that's not on my list, but Clayten, can you describe what you're talking about and what that means?
So it's been part of the ethic of FLFE since the founding of the company that we're constantly doing upgrades. And we don't charge for the upgrades. We've only had one price increase in 12 years. We just add more value all the time to the service. So the most recent upgrades are around EMF mitigation. And we had one upgrade that we knew we were going to be able to release. That was EMF 6.0. And we happened to get EMF 6.0, 7.0, and 8.0 all done when we were ready to release 6. So instead of waiting, just like if you have a computer and you go from Windows 10 to 11 these days, 20 years from now it might be Windows 26 to 27. Who knows what it'll be. But we just did 3 significant upgrades to our EMF offering.
Okay, so what does that mean when it relates to this technology? Like, how does that affect it?
I'll let Jeff pick up that one, so I'm not talking all the time.
Okay, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, as we go along and we see a need for FLFE to upgrade. So in this case, the EMF landscape's changing continuously. We're seeing, more and more satellites. There's all sorts of new things showing up on the horizon, the millimeter wave technologies. So we are continually adding to the service. So we probably have to explain a little bit about how the service works in order to tell you how an upgrade would work. So FLFE, and we'll get into more detail if you like on how the machine works. But first of all, FLFE activates a high consciousness field. So very much like a pilgrimage location or a cathedral, a place where people have been worshiping, that high consciousness field is kind of number one. And then there's information in the field. Just like if you went to a particular pilgrimage place, say Lourdes, where in France, where the main application is physical healing, that there's information in the field there at that place. If you went to Lourdes related to the water and people praying for healing and praying for others to be healed, that's all information in that field. So we're putting into FLFE information in the field to support us in our evolution. And one of those key factors is EMFs, because we saw that EMFs lower the consciousness of a space. So it's degrading the life force, degrading the how much it supports space, a place supports us. So when we do an upgrade, we're doing additional information or instructions in the field, which you could call prayers, that are very accurately written and calibrated for the level of consciousness and the functioning of it for the purpose. So when we see something's, the environment's changing like it is with EMFs, well, then we'll write out the context. What's changing? What's different? And how can we mitigate that, or really to help people just feel better and have less symptoms? That's really how we measure how people are doing in regards to EMFs. Like, do they have less anxiety? Do they have less brain fog? Do they have better sleep? And we've done, tremendous amount of research on that. That's on the website. So in this case, what we did is we added additional layers of consciousness bubbles, you could say, or consciousness fields. And these layers, you could say, are filtering or harmonizing the EMFs as they come in and bringing them to consciousness raising, positive for us. So yeah, in this case, we specified that the consciousness bubble over your house has now 3 additional layers in it, at least.
Okay.
And so those provide additional filtering and mitigation. And the same with the phone or object that everywhere that you take with you, it has now 3 additional bubbles. So that's one of the upgrades. And there's 2 more I can get into as well, if you're ready, or if you have questions about this one.
Yeah. Okay. So just as a person, like, I understand, probably not to the level that you guys do, but if you were to describe what you just described as far as a bubble, and you're putting layers of upgrades over the bubble, it almost sounds, for someone listening to this that is really trying to wrap their head around this technology, it does sound a tiny bit woo-woo, and I say that as a person who believes in this 100%, but a little bit of the questions that I get are, they just simply don't understand. And I know, is there like a super layman's terms that can help someone understand? I mean, I think we all understand about prayer. We understand the power of prayer. Unless you're just a complete atheist, maybe you understand frequencies, but I don't know. Is there like like, for example, say someone lives underneath, or they work in a building where there's literally a cell phone tower, a tower of 5G next to them or over their apartment building. That to me seems like that would be an amazing reason alone to have this EMF mitigation. So I don't know if that made sense as a question, but Clayten, how would you answer that?
Well, okay, I'm just going to tell you what I think.
Okay, perfect.
Part of the answer might be making peace with so you should have people that provide a service try to reasonably answer your question, right? And, do you understand how electricity works when you turn the light on? Do you understand how your car works when you turn the motor on and drive it? Do you understand how your Wi-Fi works? And that's just part of your everyday life. So of course it's reasonable to ask a question, and we have reasonable answers, and we have extraordinary research, right? So from the point of view of a layperson, I don't understand how electricity really works, but I really appreciate heated floors, and lights. And, I like to cook my food on a gas stove. Do I understand all the biological processes that turn plants into gas, and then all the engineering and mechanical devices that ship it all the way to my house? But I know I can trust the ability to control it at the source. And We have a control panel, and if you do a free trial, you get to go into a control panel. You can turn the level of consciousness up and down. You can turn the EMF mitigation on and off. You can turn the service on and off to experiment with it. So you have the light switch or the dimmer switch, just like on your home for your lights, and you can experiment with it. So I think part of the answer is to, and we'll go more into detail, but I think part of the answer is to make peace with our minds. And our minds, the purpose of the mind is to help us survive, and it needs to analyze and dissect and quantify things because its job is to help us survive. And the mind's a great tool. And if something's working, and we've got the research to back it up, we have extraordinary. We had an EMF researcher from the University of Pennsylvania help two doctors that we have. We have Dr. Gary Schwartz, who is a graduate of Harvard and then Yale and then Harvard, and then he ran a department at the University of Arizona for consciousness research. We have Dr. Paul A. Bellwood, who has a specialty in user interface and research in the medical field to help people understand the effects of medical, interventions. And that could be, there could be a lot more accuracy about that. But so we have extraordinary research. We have surveys that are created by world-class professionals that ask the right questions. We have a specialized person in EMF studies from the University of Pennsylvania to help with the two doctors who have extraordinary backgrounds. So at some point, it's like we can explain it, but maybe we won't get the right answer for everybody's mind. And I just don't think that's talked about enough in these types of sciences, and maybe even your world, Jane. It's like, how do you explain the magic of the plants?
Yeah. Yeah. No,
How do you
you're absolutely perfectly right. I honestly think it couldn't be a better explanation, because I think as humans who have to survive, our egos, everything has to be proven. We get up in our minds so much that sometimes it's to our detriment. And to be able to actually tune in to your own inner knowing and get quiet for a minute and let your mind quiet for a minute and tune into even the simple question of, does this technology feel right? And then you just be quiet for a second. And this is what I did when I first heard about it, is I just got quiet for a minute, which I'm used to doing this and meditating. I know a lot of people aren't, but this would be a really good situation to do this on, because if you get quiet for a minute, your mind will quiet if you let it, and then you just tune in and say, does this feel right? And the answer will just be. So I love that, Clayten, because to me, that is the answer to the question. We get up in our mind. You guys, this is what you do. You have all the research, you have all of the experts, and as modern humans, we want all the experts. But at the end of the day, it's an internal knowing based on each individual's ability to do that. So would you say that's fair?
Human beings are extraordinary instruments. We are perhaps the best instrument on the planet to measure things, just our own. And when we have to watch that we don't get cynical, right? And when things happen in the world, like what happened last week, you can lose faith. You can lose hope. I do time to time.
Yeah.
Humans our nervous systems are extraordinary, sensitive instruments. And if we can have a healthy relationship between the mind and the spirit, the mind, body, and the spirit, if you will, we provide we provide more resources than we really need to. But, we err on the side of caution, right?
Yeah.
And we respect the mind. And personally, I want to speak for Jeff. I'm okay if people tune in and they don't feel it's for them.
Yeah.
At some point we're here to help you raise your consciousness and empower you. We're not here to sell subscriptions.
Yeah.
We had other businesses. We didn't need to do this.
Yeah.
So we want to empower you to trust yourself and come closer to the Creator. So ask the Creator.
It's exactly like what I do. Like people, they can choose to let the power of plants and Mother Nature and all their energetic frequencies of what they hold, because these plants hold ancient wisdom. They can choose to let that empower their lives and empower this physical body to help them be healthier or not. And I'm also not tied to it either. So that is like a perfect explanation. So is there anything you want to add to that, Jeff, before I add another question?
Yeah, I would say that, what we're talking about is quantum mechanics, right?
Yeah.
And I've read recently about some top quantum scientists saying if someone says they understand quantum mechanics, they're either deluded or they're lying, because no one we can't wrap our minds around it. So I think that's part of this. When you're talking about a quantum connection, like between mother and children, between twins, those instant connections anywhere in the world, I know she's in trouble,
Yeah.
That's not something we can wrap our minds around, but we know it happens. We know it's true. And just the experience of thinking of someone and having them call you a minute later.
That's it.
That is just a consistent experience that I've had that is a quantum entanglement happening. I mean, that the person is dialing your number, they're thinking of you, you're identified in their mind. That quantum connection has opened, and there's now a field around you that connects you to them, and you think of them, then they call you a minute later. So we're doing these things all the time as humans, because as Clayten said, we're amazing. We're amazing that we as humans can create this quantum connection. We can send distant healing or Reiki with a unique identifier for that person. Like, what do they look, a photograph or address and name, which is just very much the way FLFE works as well. So I think if anyone can explain quantum mechanics and entanglement, I don't think it's yet there. So when we have trouble explaining it, I think anyone would, any scientist at any level doing quantum mechanics. So, but we know it works. Is Gary Schwartz. I love, working with him because he's done this for decades and decades and decades, where he's an open-minded but critical scientist. Show me the data. And these kind of fields that are frontier science, the does it work comes first before the explanation.
Yeah.
Like, is it really working? And we have so much good experiments on, is it working? And Gary was so excited about our research data and the statistical significance of it that, when he was getting ready to retire from the University of Arizona, he came to work for us as research director. I mean, he's so excited about the significance of the data. It's like, you can have data that's just 1.1 above chance, right? And it goes on the website and you say, oh, it does this and that as a marketing tool. No, we don't do that. But what we do is we publish the data. We publish the statistical significance. So our, 1 in 100 is good. And that means that there's a 1 in 100 chance that this completely happened by accident. Right. I mean, that seems pretty good. It's like a 1% chance it happened by accident. Our worst data is like 1 in 100,000.
Oh, wow.
Chance. And we get into the 1 in a million chance plus of it happening by accident. That means it's not just barely over chance. It's like way, like it really couldn't happen by chance. So that kind of thing is just more fuel for the mind to see that it's, this is a significant result that we're showing.
Yeah, and I really love that. That explains it perfectly, both of you. And what this made me think of is if we take the time, if you're one of those people who loves the scientific research, it's there. And I know there's a ton of information on your website. But what made me think of another example is right now, currently where I am in my life, I'm going through some really tough stuff that's necessary. And I still am skeptical of stuff. I think that's just human nature. And I ask for some signs that I was on the right path. And the very moment I asked for that, I started seeing recurring numbers. I started seeing things show up on license plates that were obviously my angels, my guides, the higher consciousness was showing me. It was just kind of like, Jane, do we need to beat you over the head with showing you that you have support and love from the universe and your angels and all the things that you put out, that you're on the right track. And the confirmation is there if you just look for it scientifically, if that's what you're looking for, like all the stuff that you guys just talked about with Dr. Schwartz and the research, and go down a rabbit hole is what I would suggest to people. Go down this rabbit hole and learn as much as you can. Of course, there's so much to know, but there is enough out there. So I love that. That's perfect. Okay.
Yeah, we have double-blind studies. We have 13 white papers,
Okay, there you go. They're all available for people to look at, right?
Yeah, it's all on the website.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those of you
with statistics.
Okay,
Yes.
and that's perfect. Okay, so I want to move to a question that I get from a lot of people, and I want to make sure and cover this before we run out of time. So I wrote this down. Some people of faith, for example, in the Catholic tradition, but also on other spiritual paths, they wonder how FLFE aligns with their beliefs. I get this question a lot. How do you see FLFE complementing or respecting different faith traditions? And what conversations have you had with other people who were initially unsure from a spiritual standpoint? So, Clayten, what would you say?
Well, we're people of faith. We believe there's a God, universal intelligence, the one creator of all it is. I would, some of this I have to speak for myself, but I would consider myself a spiritual student, not necessarily a religious, not necessarily religious, but spiritual. And I would, I'm not actively involved in a conventional religion. My path is business as a spiritual path. So when people are looking at all these people, how do they have a spiritual focus? Well, when you talk about serendipity, and Gary Schwartz actually is my serendipity guru, he wrote a book just on serendipities as a way to connect with the love of the universe and it trying to help us evolve. So when we look at the spiritual path of business, the way that I worked with it in my coaching practice was you start with business as a spiritual practice where you use one part of your business life as a, I guess they'd call it a crucible in the really old days, but these days it's a spiritual discipline. Like, can you show up for meetings on time? That would be one. And maybe you want to get a 98%, sort of record. And then business as a spiritual path is devoting your life to business as your monastery, as your church, as your way. And business can provide all the opportunities for anything else. It can provide all the opportunities that anything else can, in my opinion. I've been in conventional and alternative religions, and business as a spiritual path, you can find all the answers of life and business as you can. I believe in anything, in herbal creation of tinctures, in manufacturing, in construction, and we have this business. And then business as spiritual service is when you have enough money and you just do business out of the joy of contributing to the human family. And you give all the money away. And we've known some people like that. So when I talk to people of a religious affiliation, and they're looking in their holy books to see if, is FLFE mentioned in the holy books, right? It's like, well, is Wi-Fi mentioned in the holy books? Is your cellular phone mentioned? Is your car mentioned? Is your baby monitor that you use to watch your baby at sleep because you're worried about them when you have to go into work early that day? Is the security camera at your house mentioned in your holy books? And so God expresses through technology. And humans have the choice as a co-creator with the divine to use it for good or for harm. And again, it's one of those things where I don't think I'm going to be, I don't think I'm going to be able to answer that for everybody who's deep religious. There's some, they're looking for an answer that I don't think I can give. They have to find that from the creator. We can be, again, we can be rational and explain it. And I understand them wanting to be respectful of their tradition. I actually like that. And if you spend time in our business, it's a spiritual community. It's an imperfect spiritual community for sure, but we're evolving. We keep working at it. We keep learning. We keep growing. Yeah, so that's, I did write down the answer for that, at least my answer.
I like it.
Yeah, I think I'll pass it to Jeff. I don't want to, talk too long at once, but yeah, that would be my answer.
Thank you. I actually really love, it's perfect. So Jeff, what do you say
I
about
don't know
that?
how much I can add to that.
That was beautiful, Clayten.
Oh,
Mhm.
wow.
Though I would say when we discovered FLFE, when we found the inventor and we started working, just doing service work. I mean, our mission at the time was to just help humanity through the period of time that we were in then. It was, 2012. And how could we, raise consciousness and just assist humanity around the planet by elevating parts of the globe and clearing out things like concentration camps and places where there were atrocities. That by clearing that negative history, it helps us people that live on the land or live close by or visit that spot. So with that, we just did that work. No one knew we were doing it. We just did it because it was the right thing to do, and we had a new tool that we found could help the planet and could help people. And so when we really prayed and received the idea of forming a business and having people now put their own properties on and put other properties on for free through our Pay It Forward program, that they could become part of doing these good deeds, or helping to humanity to be more free. Their mission is to support the evolution of consciousness, is to support people to rise and be closer to Creator, to be free from their own patterns and beliefs that may have come from them being traumatized at an early time in their life and are largely unconscious, or habits or addictions that are really sort of holding them back from being their full selves, from expressing fully and being, closer to Creator, you could say. And so that was the mission, was to support that. And it's for all of humanity. It's not for this group or that group or this group. And so we've taken a purposefully kind of we're not going to talk as though we're this group or that group. We want it to be open, and we want as many people as possible to feel welcome. And so that's why the way we talk about it the way we do.
I think that's perfect. And it really makes me think of, I grew up in a religious construct. I grew up in the Mormon religion. And I believe, especially from the way I was raised, it was about service, and it was about helping each other. And I know that the Catholic religion and all of the religions, there's a service part of that. And I think that was the perfect explanation, because I know, especially if someone's in a religion that's very important and traditional for them, that they do things out of service for the love of humanity. And that was a perfect answer from both of you, because that resonated with exactly what I believe as well. Because I've been on a very deeply spiritual path, even more so as a person who's not in a religious construct. I left 30 years ago, and I feel that I feel so much more evolved in my connection to the divine and to God is so much stronger now. And I have so appreciated having this high consciousness field over my home and my business for the last 2 years. I can't even describe my gratitude for knowing the two of you. And I sometimes have to say, I can't believe that we get to be friends because, of just the position I'm in, I'm so grateful. So that was a beautiful answer from both of you. So thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. Do you have anything else you want to add? You opened your mouth, Clayten.
We've historically given over 95% of the energy from the machine away anonymously
Yeah.
to service projects around the world. We
Yeah.
use typically about 1% for the customers, and we just keep updating the machine because we can, I haven't found any way to help the world more with my skills and resources. So that's why I'm doing this.
Perfect. Well,
Probably
this is
true
a
for Jeff.
perfect segue into the machine.
Mm.
Tell us what you can about the machine, because I do get this a lot. Like, can you just give a description? And I think I might have asked you this last time, but I would love to have just you maybe start with you, Jeffrey. What do you say about that? Because that's a question I get all the time.
Well, when I walked in the original inventor's house, Clayten and I pulled up, he had told me about it, and opened that door and walked in. That was the first time that I'd entered a high consciousness space. I mean, I had been to cathedrals before that, and I had felt that uplifted feeling, but this was really strong. And what I saw were floor to ceiling stacks of plates and coils, and they were electrically connected top to bottom, top to bottom, top to bottom. And there was a whole bank of oscilloscopes and controls. And this current was oscillating. It was high-speed oscillating current, and it was adjusted. And all of those stacks were pulling in available energy. And then there was one output stack. And Clayten's invitation, I stepped forward and I put my hand in that place, and it was super tingly. I mean, there was a lot of energy there. And in that place were pieces of paper. And so that space, that high consciousness space that made my hand tingle was because of the geometries of the system and the way it worked, created a quantum field, a place that if you put a photograph or a unique identifier of some sort, like an address, into that, a field would activate there at that address instantly. And that's what was discovered, by the inventor and with Clayten's help. And so that was the beginning of the FLFE system. Now it's evolved since then, but it still has that space, that very high consciousness field in it, where instructions go. And every one of the instructions says, divinity, please do the following. And that becomes the instructions for the unique identifier, for the address, the phone number. And we found a way we used to originally put a piece of paper in there with each address. And that became quite cumbersome after a while. So we discovered a way to connect that to a database so that now if someone goes on the free trial and puts their address in, it's like we put it on a piece of paper and put it in the system. So, and it's just like a Reiki practitioner, someone sending healing prayer to someone. There's a unique identifier there. They have to know who they're sending it to. You have to know the recipient for it to make that connection. And so it's very much the same, works very much the same way.
Clayten, do you have anything to add to that?
It's a consciousness technology. It's a new type of technology on the planet. I believe that the divine gives us the opportunity through our own efforts and the evolution of technology in some cases such as ours, to help bring balance to and uplift the world. And so these technologies are emerging out of the divine field, if you will, and there's recipients that pick them up and go to work every day and bring them to the world. I mean, the tinctures don't make themselves. You know, the
True
plants don't
that.
harvest. The plants don't harvest themselves. The mixers, they don't mix themselves. They don't get themselves in bottles. They don't get shipped. They don't run the e-commerce on the website. So the technology was actually born out of one particular man's devotion and love to humanity. He wanted to create a free energy device to help people. And was using these opposing wheels with opposing magnets where you pulse one magnet slightly out of phase to another. And once you get it spinning, they should be able to pulse and keep going. And that's one of the approaches that free energy device people use to try to create free energy machines. So he was a retired electrician, millwright, tool and die maker. He had a 2-car garage, an extra deep 2-car garage that was like a machine shop, a casting shop. It had mills and drill presses and lathes and a parts department, like a hardware store. And he just worked at trying to find a free energy device. And his love was so pure, I believe, that the divine gave him something else than what he was intending, because he wasn't caught up in and having it to be a certain way. I think it's when he couldn't do it, but he kind of stumbled across this way to create a consciousness technology. He just went with that, and I worked with him for a few years before he passed. He was a pretty eccentric fellow, no doubt about it. He worked with a couple other people for a while, and they just eventually all ran out of money, and because they couldn't find a way. You can have a free energy device, but you can make the machine and make a profit on the machine, because everybody has to live, right? So they were hoping to create this free energy device and maybe manufacture the machines or sell the license to manufacture them, and then they'd be okay financially. And they ran out of money, and he just kept going. I met him just after the other 2 guys had left. They were kind of working part-time at it, and he was retired, and that's all he did all day for a year, day in and day out. And took his dog for a walk, hung out with a few friends and worked on his technology. And so it was born out of the love for humanity. And he took it to a certain, a certain state. The metaphor I sometimes think of, it's like maybe it was a Model A Ford, and now you have a brand new high-end, like a Tesla or a BMW or Mercedes, So he got it to the Model A Ford place, and we've taken it to be a whole other, like we've had, I think it's 6 other technologies to it to help it work better. But he, and some of them were just extrapolations on what he did. But I think it's worth knowing that it was born out of the love for humanity and wanting to serve. And then he's passed over since, and we've taken it up and carried it on from there.
Are you guys at the Lamborghini stage?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I was trying to think of car metaphors. Like, okay, I couldn't.
No, that was perfect.
It's so specialized, right?
Yeah.
It's nicer than a minivan for sure. Not that minivans aren't good, but
oh my gosh,
it's definitely a 4-door sedan V8. I'm thinking about what I would like.
I think it's
right?
higher than that. I think it's a little more fancy than that.
It'd be more fancy than that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, right now it runs off. I seen that was one of your questions. It actually runs off the ether. We found a way to amplify the signal, so you don't have to have any electrical input. So it starts with a very small signal, and it's amplified and amplified and amplified. So that was one of the things that we brought to the table, was instead of using a mechanical amplification, we found, we have multiple ways of amplifying it. So.
No, I love that. In fact, it's interesting just listening to both of you describe all of this. And if anyone listening to this feels the same way, I get this kind of full body chills, or just kind of this high vibrational knowing that what you guys are saying is, it's just truth. You know what I mean? And I think this is what, to me, this technology either resonates with you or it doesn't. And I feel like I could spend, I'm not even going to have you answer any more questions, because what I feel right now with what you guys have provided is absolute perfection. But what I do want to do is I want to throw out a little bit of a challenge to the people who maybe you've tried this 15-day free trial and then you didn't jump and decide to make this part of your life. And I'm telling you, if you are sitting on the fence where we are right now in September of 2025, and you're like, I'm not really sure, this is a time to tune in to your highest intuition, to your higher self, to all of the energies and frequencies that are available to us. And then take this beautiful tool that makes it easier to be a human as we walk through these times. And to me, it's interesting. Just this morning, I went through a list. I was putting together a list of some of the things that we pay for, like Netflix and Hulu and Apple TV and Disney Plus. I literally did that this morning, and it added up to an unbelievable amount of, at this point, a lot of these are getting canceled. But I was like, what you provide, the service, the technology, I don't even know how anybody cannot do this and keep this as part of your life, keep this as part of your rise into consciousness, because it's such a powerful tool. So, maybe to wrap this up, let's start with you, Jeffrey. What would you like to say? Because I believe you guys are on the same path as the inventor of this machine. You guys are exactly the same. You guys want to raise divinity. You want to help humanity. You guys are exactly the reason that you're doing what you're doing, because you are such a beautiful, pure humans. So I could keep gushing, but Jeffrey, what do you say?
Well, we had a webinar last week, and Alicia came on.
Oh.
And she has 4 kids, single mom, 4 young kids. And she recently moved to a different part of the country, and to be closer to her family, and all of her kind of matriarchal parts of her sister, her mother, her grandmother, they all died last year.
Oh.
And she was left, wow, where's that unconditional love of family for the kids? Can I provide that environment? She was worried about it. And she went on FLFE, and she told us it filled the gap. It felt mitigated, that issue for her, that the love was there. For me, there's no other reason to do the business than that.
I'm sure every single story you hear just gives you confirmation. That's amazing. Clayten?
Well, I think what I should say is that, some people ask us, why don't you just give it all away? And we can only do so much good with our own personal resources. So when we prayed about how to bring this to the world, it's like, well, unless someone gives you a whole lot of money, then the best way for you to serve is to make it a business, so you can afford to pay the researchers to help us do the research to prove it works. We've got, I don't know what the number is now, but at one point recently we had about 50 people on the team. And we have, like 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, you can call the office and get a hold of a real person. And if you don't get through right away, you'll get a call back, like probably within an hour, 98% of the time during business hours. We have people just like us that work in the office. They're all on a spiritual path. Some of them are very religious. When you can be any religion you want, as long as you're a religion of love. You can't, if you want to call yourself a certain religion, that's fine, but you can't, who wants to be around people who say they're a certain religion, but they hate another religion, or they hate a certain type of person? So we've created a relatively high consciousness business, and, we've got lots to learn. But the only way that we know to do this and to have it express its full impact in the world is to do it as a business. When we did have somebody make a comment one time on a webinar, well, have you ever heard of angel investors? Yeah, we've heard of them. And when one shows up with the resources for us to run the business for the rest of our lives, I'm open, you know. So until that day, like we got payroll to meet. Like all these people that work in the office, they have lives, they have families, and mortgages, and so sometimes, business has a mixed reputation, and some of its bad reputation is earned. Everything horrible in the world's been done in the name of business, right? But everything horrible in the world's been done in the name of religion. Every horrible thing you can imagine has been done in the name of religion or in the name of a certain god. So that's not the fault of business. Business is probably the most efficient way to distribute certain things in the world. Certainly, I don't know any other way to do it, to do FLFE, but through a business. So it's just the world we live in at this point. Maybe we'll evolve beyond the need for money and all that. I mean, I'm open to that. I don't know how it would work, but lots of stuff I don't know. So I just think it's important to say that, when we pray, when we check in, we ask people from time to time, and they'll sort of talk us through it. And I don't know any other way to do this than to do it through business.
I think it's perfect. I mean,
Yeah.
I personally, I've never questioned it because I do the same thing, but all of us do. Like, this is the world that we live in is not a world where everyone's doing their passion and helping the people in their community and making sure there's housing and energy and food and all of the stuff. It's the business piece of it, is, to me, that is very easy because we have a currency that we need to live and survive. And I think my point of saying all about, the things that we pay for every month was just simply giving some people perspective. You could go out and have a meal. Before I did what I'm doing for 20 years, I was in the fitness industry. I was a personal trainer. I used to own my own gym, and I sold gym memberships. And it was always interesting to me to talk to people who were trying to justify something like $20 a month or $50 a month for their gym membership. And I remember as a gym owner, it was like, well, I just spent $1 million on equipment when I built my own gym. I spent $1 million on treadmills and weights and machines. And so it's like, you get to pay $50 a month or $20, whatever it is, and you get to utilize all of this, and you don't even have to maintain it. If the treadmill breaks, I maintain it. You know what I mean? So there's got to be a perspective of the service that you provide. And here's what I believe: the more people that like resonate with your business, resonate with your service, the more people can benefit. It's like having my own gym. If I have 100 members, I probably can't survive. But if I have 2,000 members, then I'm going to be able to keep the equipment clean and serviced, and I'm going to be able to provide this beautiful thing that's going to help keep you healthy. And your investment is so minimal. So all of that makes so perfect sense to me. So that's just my best example of that, because your service is so, for what it is, I would pay 10 times as much for it. I'm just saying. So anyway, so maybe let's just give a couple things to wrap this up. Start with you, Jeffrey. What do you have to say to the people who have maybe tried the 15-day, and I don't know, after this conversation, I don't know why you'd still be on the fence, but what would you say?
I'd say, follow your heart, but give it a chance. And if you need to try it for a month to really experience it, and we all have busy lives and travel, and if you, we designed the free trial to be a gift and to really give something in that 2 weeks. And it's clearing the negative history of the land and really helping people to have more personal energy for their lives and more sort of clarity in their thinking. I mean, that's one thing we found in this last upgrade is cognitive. Regina Meredith told me that she had, after that went on, she had an experience of getting more done in a day than she'd been able to get done in decades. That
Wow.
she had the mental stamina and the sort of horsepower to get things done. And I've noticed that as well, and many others have too. We don't yet have research on that one, but there's so much positive there that we've built into this to support you in your life. And just join us and give it a try for a month or two and see what you think. Come on our webinars and talk to us. Ask us anything you want.
Yeah, and I love that. If people are really serious, do a little bit of due diligence and take them up on the free webinars. And there's no commitment past a month to month. There's no commitment. All right, Clayten, let's take us home, my friend. What do you have to say to close this puppy out?
It's a no credit card free trial. We've done that right from the beginning. You can't get billed by accident.
Yeah.
I signed up to one of those services that you talked about earlier, and I spent an hour and a half one night trying to cancel it. You just pick up the phone and call somebody, So if it's during office hours, someone will pick up or get back to you. There's an unsubscribe button on the website. It's not difficult to cancel. Yeah, like what Jeff said, we're here to help you raise your consciousness. We want you to trust yourself. And not everybody is really sensitive. If you go to not everybody really feels Reiki, right? And some people do, they turn it on right away and they notice it. And other people, they have to look at, what others in the environment are doing. Are the people calmer? Are the pets are a great placebo. They don't know that it's on. Are the pets behaving differently if you have pets? How do your plants behave, right? We have double-blind plant studies. A 10,000 acre organic farm with red wheat. It's a 22.9% increase in yield in a semi-drought. We have 168 or 169% increase in root length on sprouts, right? The sprouts didn't pay for it. They don't know if it's on or off. So, we have all of that. But really it's about, trust yourself. And if you get empowered by being on the 2 weeks and saying no, I mean, it's a horrible business thing to say, but it's like, well, then we've helped empower you. We've done our job.
Yeah.
But a lot of people will sign up. We do want someone in the environment to know what's on and encourage people to hydrate more, because your body's so intelligent. It's going to take extra energy and do all kinds of repairs, right? And you know that from your health background. So you just need to make sure that you hydrate properly to get the most out of it. Otherwise, we have things in there that turn it down a little bit, like a dimmer switch. So you might not notice it as much if you're not hydrated. But we have I know at one point there was 20 ways you can notice the influence of a high consciousness field in your environment, including having your friends come over and hang out and not want to leave, and eating all your groceries, stuff like that. So it may not express in the ways that you think, but if you look, you'll probably find it. And if you don't, God bless you.
Yeah,
Either way.
okay too.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, guys, I have to just say it. I love you both so much. I think you're beautiful humans. I can't wait for the day when I get to meet you both in person and just give you a massive, big hug. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking time. I know you guys are so busy, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time to answer some questions and hopefully clear up some things for people who tune into what I do. Because I love, it feels like what we both do is really congruent with helping humanity rise right now. So thank you for your time. I appreciate you both so much, and we'll connect in with you next time.